On this episode of Just Informed Talk, the latest new set of Q posts discuss the fact that the Mueller insurance policy has expired. We're going to look at what that might mean. Plus, we're going to understand why optics are more important now than ever to the Democrats as they come into power and what is coming of that. Hi, I'm Craig, and welcome to Just Informed Talk. First of all, I always say thank you to everybody who's come here and hit that subscribe button. If you haven't done it already, please come here to the landing page. Click the big red subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications to be notified when these videos get posted. So, as you can see here, today's video, we have a whole new set of Q posts. In this video, we're going to talk about, basically, we're going to talk about the Mueller insurance policy and its expiration date, which has come, in the words of Q. We're going to talk about control of the narrative. We're going to talk about so much other stuff that you guys are just going to stick around. There's a whole plethora of information that we have to cover here. But if you're new to this channel and you're scratching your head going, what's QAnon? I always encourage everyone to come back here and watch this video. It's What is QAnon? The Great Awakening. It'll tell you everything you need to know about QAnon, what it is, how to find the information, how to do the research, all that great stuff. And if you already know what QAnon is and you want to get caught up to where we're at, just come back here and watch these last few videos. You can go back as far as you want and basically get caught up to where we are at now. So for those of you who weren't here the last time, the last post we had was on December 22nd, 2018. It was Q post 2642, and here we're picking up with Q post 2643 on January 5th. So it has been quite a while. It's actually been 12 days, it would seem, since the last Q post, and of course here we are with the new batch. I think it's 12. Yeah. Anyway, we're going to start right here. Q post 2643, and there's a lot of information to dive into. So first, Q gives us a screenshot of an older Q post from November 30th of 2018, so not too long ago, a couple months ago, but where it talks about what was Mueller designed to do. And that's what Q wants us to focus on inside of this post. Now, I'm sorry if it's a little hard to read, but we're going to read that in a second. Let's read what Q has to say. First, he gives us this tweet from Brit Hume. Now, this tweet, to understand it, you're going to have to go read this document. Of course, it is this set of email communications between this person, Peter Stone from McClatchy, and this person named Cleta Mitchell, who was referenced as being a lawyer who basically... The headline that is in contention here is it's talking about a fake news story. And it said that there was a NRA lawyer who expressed concerns about groups, Russian groups that were tied to the NRA, basically, and their potential donations and how that could be perceived or misperceived. Now, this person, Cleta Mitchell, is writing to the person, Peter Stone, who presumably wrote this story. At first, you get this set of emails where it's basically them asking, to give comment on this issue. And the person, when asked, basically, to verify what their source had said. So Peter Stone's source said that there was basically there was this probe into Russian meddling in the elections, and but the story was basically reading about the NRA and how this person who was a former lawyer was cited as being concerned about this Russian connection between a certain person who's a donor to the NRA. It's pretty far-fetched, and I'm going to leave a post to this, or it's pretty crazy, and I'm going to leave a post to this so you guys can read it for yourself. But the long story short is that this person, Cleta, is telling these people at this McClatchy, which if you guys don't know what McClatchy is, it's basically like this news website, a news publication, and they write a lot of very leaning stuff, right? It would seem quite biased reporting, but to each their own, right? I'm not gonna knock these people too hard, other than to say what Q's pointing us to is that this woman or this person, Cleta, is writing and saying, I never said these things, you're lying, you need to retract the story, you need to rewrite the headline, you need to rewrite the first paragraph, and they're basically just going back and forth, and it basically comes to a stalemate where there's no real resolution other than that they're just going to run with their story and their sources, and they're going to just basically ignore this emphatic plea that was so emphatic, mind you, from this Cleta Mitchell that other news organizations wouldn't run this story, but this McClatchy did. And that's what I think is being pointed to here by Brit Hume. He's saying that the on-the-record denials, this sweeping and empathetic, meaning Cleta's, denial of this story, which was so emphatic, apparently caused some journalists not to write this story, but the McClatchy guys wrote it anyway. Now, taking this in context of what Q's saying here, Q says, what happens when all insiders, quote unquote, know the news is fake? What happens when all the quote unquote insiders know Adam Schiff is the leak of false data? What happens when a member of the House Intel Committee purposely leaks fake and false data to quote unquote friendly news sources in order to maintain and portray a false narrative to the public? How do you build a case against a member of the House Intel Committee if they themselves have access to the intelligence? What critical quote-unquote mission did Sessions publicly announce regarding leaks? Why did Sessions make this public? Optics are important. Control of the narrative. Truth and transparency is the only way forward. Regarding Mueller, deleted critical text messages between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. Reread the Mueller Design 2. And it says the Mueller insurance policy has expired. Q. Okay, so let's just start here at the top. First of all, this is where the Mueller Design 2 post is that Q wants us to look at. We'll look at that in a minute. But Q's asking some pretty interesting questions, right? What happens when all the insiders know the news is fake? Think about that in terms of this McClatchy story, that this person is basically telling them, explicitly in no uncertain terms that they emphatically deny the validity of the story in question, and they're the person being written about, yet they're saying that their sources are more reliable. Now, it's been alluded to or suggested, I think, through this, that Adam Schiff has some connection to McClatchy, because if you read through this document, which I'll leave the full thing on here, it actually talks about the way that they misreported on Adam Schiff, and they basically have targeted, according to this person, Devin Nunes, and this is some sort of ongoing bias that is quite pronounced with this organization and this particular reporter's reporting. Now, that being said, you guys can read through that for yourselves. If you guys want to get that full thing, I'll have all these links down. There's going to be a lot of links, I think, at the end of all this. But it's saying, and don't forget that Adam Schiff is the member, he's going to be the ranking member now of the House Intelligence Committee. That should terrify everyone with half a fraction of common sense, because he is the person, like it says here. It's like, how do you build a case against somebody who is allegedly leaking the information straight from the House Intelligence Committee, but then that person has access to the to all the intelligence that would basically be used against himself? What was the critical mission that Sessions publicly announced? To find all the leakers and to get them out. I think that's exactly what it was referring to. And it says, why did Sessions make that public? Basically to let them know, and if you scare them, they make mistakes, right? But the optics are important, and control of narrative. If you guys have any other way of breaking this down in more detail, please leave it down in the comments. I'd love to hear it. But that's basically the shorthand version of everything that's going on. And then it talks about how truth and transparency is the only way forward. So they understand that they're controlling the optics and they're controlling the narrative, and they're going the opposite of truth and transparency, and that's the only way forward, is to get this all out in the open. I mean, the question really, and I think this is an important question, there was 19,000 or something, some odd text messages deleted that were critical, according to this here, between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, that would have outlined so much of this corruption that was at the highest levels, that was basically tilted against the President of the United States, according to many different reports, including the Inspector General's report and others, that basically outline that there was an animus and a bias. right? And it started at the top. And we know through our own fact finding that the FISA, they used the Steele dossier to get the FISA to spy on the president. And Mueller is apparently, what it looks like, covering his tracks right now by deleting text messages like this. Because don't forget, Peter Strzok was brought into the Mueller investigation as a head investigator. So this is not all just random people. These are very connected. And when it asks you to go here and read this, sorry, it's kind of poor quality, but here's where it says these are ways to understand what Mueller is doing, right? So it's saying Mueller was designed to take in evidence needed to expose the deep state. DOJ block regarding Mueller evidence ongoing investigation. So it was a roadblock for the DOJ to get to evidence that was being, that evidence that existed that could implicate there was a deep state involved in, setting up this FISA gate to go after the president and all that stuff. They could put all that into this special ongoing investigation, and then it becomes ongoing or evidence in an ongoing investigation. Therefore, it's not able to be accessed. Then you have Mueller's designed to limit POTUS's ability to maneuver. Obviously, politically, it really limits President Trump's options when he has a special counsel investigation into alleged collusion with Russia, right? It says Mueller was designed to stall for time until the midterm elections to terminate all House Senate ongoing investigations. And that's what you're seeing right now. I mean, the Democrats have now taken over the House, and you're not going to hear one peep about these investigations that we've been having into like the Clinton Foundation, and pay for play there, what happened with Uranium One. All of these very, very important topics that go into larger issues, right, of corruption broadly across multiple layers in our own government, it would seem, according to allegations. But yeah, they wanted to stall for time to bring the midterm elections in so that they could get rid of those. And it's saying it was designed to safeguard the Democratic Party base, false narrative regarding Russia collusion, POTUS cheated, evil, sky falling, in an effort to divide and mobilize for future protests, riots, threats, violence, false flags, etc. You've seen all that. It's happened. There's been protests and riots and threats of violence and all types of craziness, right? And it's saying Mueller was also designed to provide fake news with ammunition to sway public opinion, obstruct foreign and domestic agenda, and fuel impeachment removal, fuel anti-POTUS division, prevent unity, etc. And that is self-explanatory, guys. You just got to turn on the news for 5 minutes and turn on CNN for an hour, and I'm sure you're going to get a healthy dose of your anti-President Trump, everything he stands for rhetoric and garbage that you're basically only force-fed over there. And it says Mueller was designed to demonstrate to foreign players that the old guard still pulls string. Of course, you have John Kerry going over and meeting with the Iranians when he's not even in any office. He's not in any elected office. He hasn't been asked to do any official work for our government, yet he's going over and having meetings with the Iranians. I mean, ask yourself, what's going on with that? Obviously, it was designed to mobilize the Democratic Party for a midterm vote win, and Mueller was designed to push Democratic Party backers to donate GoFundMe to Democratic Party. And of course, Mueller was designed as a public outcry excuse should criminal charges be brought against them. We are being politically attacked because Mueller. How do you know? Remove, install, blockade, declassify everything. So yeah, this was basically the one that I thought stood out the most too, is that it's an excuse, right? So if you do bring charges against whoever, let's hypothetically say you bring charges against James Comey for lying under oath, right? Oh, but it's politically motivated. Or the best example is really like Hillary, right? So if you were to actually bring an indictment against her, it would be, oh, he's going after his political enemies. Instead of, oh, well, let's look at the evidence. Let's ask ourselves why a grand jury would sign off on an indictment against somebody. Let's look at the actual evidence instead of just assuming that the president is off on some, political agenda trying to effectively turn the government into his own personal little dictatorship, which is not happening. That is the opposite of the truth. So the Mueller insurance policy has expired. I'm thinking that that's going to be going away soon. So we'll have to wait and see. Now, of course, here's the next one. This was a good one. So back in January of 2018, so that was last year, we had this post right here where it talks about U.S. taxpayers are paying for it all. Paris Accord equals a scam in the trillions. Red Cross equals scam in the billions. Foreign aid equals scam in trillions. War equals scam in trillions. On and on. It says who audits where the money actually goes, who actually receives the money. The U.S. taxpayer is funding the very people we are engaged in taking down. Slush funds everywhere. Think George Soros pays for Antifa out of his own pocket. The hole is deep. Feel sick yet? And then it gives this tweet from President Trump. Now, this tweet from President Trump says the Democrats want billions of dollars for foreign aid, but they don't want to spend a small fraction of that number on properly securing our border. Figure that one out. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, sometimes President Trump, he's got these little nuggets of wisdom that are just incredible. But it says 2 days ahead of schedule. Now, what is that referring to? I think that this is all referring to basically the fact that President Trump is calling out what's happening globally and calling out these foreign aid scams, right? We're giving billions and billions of dollars to countries that don't, they won't secure their own borders and they won't help us fight different types of crime and illegal activities, right? So that to me is what was 2 days ahead of schedule, I guess, was the tweet that's supposed to match up with this and what we're doing. Obviously being a reference to the fact that, this was Q alluding a year ago to events that are happening today, right? Back then. So reading this again from last year and understanding that he was 2 days ahead of schedule, meaning President Trump decided to post and to talk about this 2 days before, so it wouldn't mess up the whole Q Claw community, the people who follow the numerology behind it. So with that being said, I think that's pretty much self-explanatory. And then the next one is this, of course, this is the anti-fascist action symbols versus from 1933, which was the paramilitary wing of the Communist Party of Germany, as compared to today, 2017, which is the paramilitary wing of the Democratic Party. This is great. So we have these kind of organizations that are popping up, which to me are far more dangerous than anything I could imagine to the safety and security of our democracy. Is an organization like this who believes that in order to advance their own political goals, that violence is an acceptable option, and that to me is what leads to the destruction of most democracies and most sovereign governments, when you have this kind of infiltration of your own society by organizations like this who will do whatever it takes, even if that means breaking the law in order to affect the outcome that they desire, which is fascism in itself. Which is the most ironic part of it all, is that these people call themselves anti-fascists while practicing fascism. It doesn't make any sense to me, and nobody's going to change my mind on that. But what's being noted here by Q, first off, is this tweet. Okay, so this tweet shows you guys see what's going on in, I think, yeah, this is in Paris during the Yellow Vest riots. And this is about far more at this point than it is about gas taxes and that kind of stuff. It's about taxation without representation. It literally is similar to what we went through here when we were forming our own independence, where you have these big governing elected individuals who are basically imposing these huge taxes on the middle class, siphoning wealth out of what makes a country stable, which is the middle class. So that's something that we're seeing, and that's something that Q is pointing us to say this right here, which is what we're going to talk about next. It says complete blackout by the fake news media. Ask yourself why. Are they afraid of U.S. patriots engaging in the same tactics? Did the liberal left old guard engage and form organizations such as Antifa to combat and silence fascism, any such deviation of the controlled narrative? Do the actions of those patriots abroad destroy the fake news narrative? Majority agree with policies of the liberal left? We will not go silent into the night. We will not go without a fight. Do you believe this movement and worldwide events are simply a coincidence? Divided you are weak. Together you are strong. We the people have the power. Executive order active. Where we go one, we go all. Q. Now, of course, I echo the sentiment of Q down here in the bottom, where it's a global thing, it's worldwide, and it's not a coincidence to me, at least. But this is saying some pretty interesting stuff. Like the mainstream media won't cover this yellow vest stuff. I've barely seen any stories on the news about it. At the same time, though, they have plenty of stories out about how President Trump is, says the wrong thing, uses grammatically makes a mistake, and all of a sudden it's a front page story, right? But this is not getting talked about. Not nearly as much as it should be, and Q's pointing it out. First off, they're afraid that people would realize if the people realized what was happening in Europe, what this whole yellow vest thing is about, what it's standing up to, then they would understand that the policies of the liberal left that runs most of the institutions in Europe don't that's a given, right? That those policies are failing, and that the same policies that they're trying to bring here to our country, that a lot of our elected officials seem to think are good ideas, are going to end in this kind of destruction, I think, in my opinion. Just that's personal opinion. I'm not saying it's fact. I'm just saying it's an opinion. So this is what's being said to us, and it's basically saying, groups like Antifa, were they formed by the liberal left in order to basically enforce the controlled narrative, right? To keep those who, there's a reason why I was talking to somebody today about this. I said I'm going to start making a point to wear my Make America Great Again hat every time I go outside, because I'm not going to be bullied or intimidated by these people, because it's just the thought that you wear the hat, you're going to get harassed, you're going to get intimidated, you're going to get yelled at, you're going to get put down. I mean, just the thought of that keeps a lot of people from wearing that and representing their own political freedom, which is being able to have their own opinion. And I think that's really a sad thing. So I'm going to make a point of that, and I'm going to maybe even do some blogs about it. Just if I get some weird reactions, I'm going to try to get it on film and share it with you guys. But, which I don't know that I will. Colorado's not too bad, but it can be in certain areas. But then it talks about, of course, not going silent into the night and not going out without, a fight against what this is, right? And that is true. So everything else. And in the executive order, of course, as you all will recall, is this right here. I think it's the executive order that took effect on January 1st, 2019, right? And this is actually the 2018 amendments to the manual for courts martial, but this is going to change the rules. It's going to change the way things are happening, and it's going to change the people, or the way people are able to be apprehended, and what culpability they have, and what court they may end up in. Would it be the possibility that certain people, politicians possibly, who may or may not have been involved, if they were involved with criminal activity that was giving information to our enemies, aiding and abetting our enemies, then technically, according to the UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, they could be considered enemy combatants and then being brought in posthumously, mind you, as enemy combatants and then tried in a military court. That's a possibility. And I know that other people are very quick to dismiss it, but the framework's been laid. Now we just have to remember that there is a lot of national security issues that go into bringing charges against high-ranking politicians and individuals that may disallow certain things to happen. But that's only for time to tell. We don't know yet if that is going to be the case. And of course, so there you go. That's kind of breaking down that one. Sorry, this might be a longer video because there's a lot to break down here. Now, the next post here, of course, is this January 5th, this picture of President Trump here, of course, from today, which is January 5th. And it's got President Trump here with like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and all these other guys like Don King. And basically, I think the insinuation is basically that President Trump, he's not a racist. He's been friends with all different types of people throughout, his life, and they've embraced him, especially in the African American community. It seems he was embraced as per his philanthropy and the works that he's done to help inner city children and all these other organizations. So this, to me, is kind of breaking that media paradigm construct that they give you, where it says President Trump's a racist, and you're like, well, what proof do you have about that? Well, he is, because he says that all Mexicans are this or that. And you're like, well, but that's the quote out of context. So yeah, if you say it out of context, it's going to sound bad. But if you say it in context, then it's obviously a reference to the fact that these individuals exist amongst other individuals. So I don't know. That's just another thing we have to save for another video, right? But it says, do you notice any similarities? Democrats attempt to turn the public against our police, ICE, and those who continually serve the public interest protect. Open borders with no immigration and customs officials to safeguard the people. EU government attempt to turn the police against the people. Re-yellow vest protests. Police versus people, EU. Democrats attempt to sway public versus police, ICE in the US. It's saying a war against globalism, a war to retain sovereignty. Divide those who police and safeguard against the people they are sworn to protect. Chaos. Make the people fight themselves versus original targets, old guard. Fake news push of racism, fascism, sexism, every other ism, etc. Against those seeking to end globalism in favor of nationalism. Pride of heritage and culture, preservation and security safety. Is designed to keep you submissive. Why do Democrats deploy and use racism as their go-to tactic when an argument or narrative cannot factually be substantiated? POTUS and Black community pre-candidacy, POTUS and Black community post-candidacy. Reconcile. They want you divided, controlled, submissive, sheep, posse comitatus act, Q. All right, so there's a lot to unpack here, but let's just start at the beginning. What is being painted here is Q's telling us, look, the same way that the mainstream media tries to tell you that President Trump's a racist, you can look at his relationship with the African American and Black community pre-candidacy, post-candidacy, and it's not changed. There hasn't been some deviation. He's been an advocate and a philanthropist then, and he, as a president, he has continued his work in helping the Black community at large. So that, you can throw that out the window, right? And when you do that, you can look at other narratives that are being presented to you by other behavioral modifications that they want to instill on the people of this country. For instance, the reason they want to portray police and ICE as people who are working against the public interest is because they want open borders and they don't want immigration and customs officials to safeguard the border. If they really wanted that, then I don't see how there would be one possible scenario where they would not at least support the barrier wall, whatever they want to call it, in the areas where it's needed, right? Because obviously you're not going to put up 1,000 miles of wall, but there's a few hundred miles, it would seem, that need border fences. Just a fence, just a wall. You have a fence between you and your neighbor's house, right? Apparently you don't if you're a Democrat, because you don't believe in walls or barriers. You don't even believe in shrubs, I'm sure. But it's the same way they do that, and they've tried to turn the police against the people with this yellow vest protest in the EU. That's what Q's saying here, and it talks about how they want to do the same thing here because we're standing up against globalism. We're trying to regain our sovereignty as a country, and so are the people in the EU. Look at how many of those countries have been disproportionately affected negatively by this EU, the European Union. This was supposedly going to be this great idea, but it ended up just being an unelected bureaucracy of former royalty and hardcore progressives. I mean, and this is what happened to them, and now they realize that they're being taxed by an organization that's not even a part of their sovereign. So they don't have any means to go and do anything else besides what they seem to be doing with these protests. There's no other avenue for them to take action other than to go into the streets and protest and say it's wrong, because there's no democratic system about it. There's nothing democratic about it. It's unelected officials who are making policies and then putting them onto the whole. Okay, and that's what they're standing up against. Like I said, it's basically taxation without representation is what is being fought against there, among other things, right? Or governance without representation, whatever you want to call it, right? So it's talking about how they want to divide people, the police from the people they're safeguarded to protect. It creates chaos, and you want to make the people fight themselves versus the original targets. So it's just the way the fake news and the mainstream media push the racism and fascism, sexism, and every other ism against those who are not in favor of a globalist society, a globalist international order, right? The New World Order, as they called it in the past. If you're not in favor of that, but you are in favor of nationalism, trust me, they'll use racism against you. If you're white, you're a white nationalist. And doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what your actual views are. If you're white and you believe in nationalism, you're a white nationalist, and that is a bad thing. According to the media, according to the Democrats and the left, those two words, when you put them together, equals evil, apparently. But I don't see how it does. Nobody's explained this to me. I didn't get any memo from anyone that said, by the way, anyone who's a nationalist and happens to be white is the enemy of the people. That's just crazy, and that's what's being suggested by a lot of different individuals out there, because it is designed to keep you submissive, right? Why did the Democrats deploy and use racism as their go-to tactic when an argument or narrative cannot factually be substantiated? It's just like dealing with a child. I know you are, but what am I? Or something like that. They have these go-tos where it's, oh well, it's racist because Donald Trump said that Mexicans are this or that, and you're like, well, no, that's not. It's not racist to say that criminals are crossing the border amongst a population of individuals. That there's nothing racist about that. But if you take it out of context, it sounds like it could be, a bad statement. But anyway, that's what that's saying. Yeah. And then the Posse Comitatus Act, that just, I think, talks about how the government can't use the Army or the Navy or the Air Force or anyone on American soil. And I think what that's a reference to is building the wall, and how President Trump's going to go around that and use the military to build the wall, because there's amendments to the Posse Comitatus Act that actually would stipulate that it's possible, especially like here, there was two modifications in particular. There was a 2007 Defense Authorization Bill, which basically it tweaked the language, but they were included later in the John Warner National Defense Authorization Act of fiscal year 2007. And what it does is it allows the president to employ armed forces to restore public order and enforce the laws of the United States when, as a result of national disaster, epidemic, or other serious public health emergency, terrorist attack, or incident, or other condition, the president determines that domestic violence has occurred to such an extent that the constituted authorities of the state or possession are incapable of maintaining public order. So if President Trump basically declares an emergency and says that there's a flood of criminals who are coming across the border, then he can absolutely, especially with this other modification from President Obama, basically, but more particularly this one, that he can institute the military to build the wall as a safeguard against perceived threat to our country's security. So that is something that I think is what they want you to look at for the wall. So obviously, then it goes into this one. Now, this is pretty crazy. We got a picture here from Q of a watch. Now, what kind of watch? Well, this pen. This is that Mont Blanc pen that President Trump, and we've seen in these pictures, that's been used to sign different executive orders. Here is a picture of what would be a black leather binder, which might actually contain an executive order, but it actually looks kind of small. Looks like kind of a notebook maybe, so it might be like a personal notebook. And then it's got this watch. This is a watch that looks like it's at 3:15-ish, almost 3:15 on the dot. And it's a very expensive watch. It's this watch right here. It's a Portugueser chronograph classic from IWC Schaffhausen. Sorry if I got that wrong. But anyway, it's a $12,000 watch. So obviously, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it belongs to somebody very important. A lot of speculation on the boards has been like, does it belong to President or Vice President Pence? I don't think it's President Trump's watch, because I haven't seen a picture of this watch in particular on him. But listen to what Q says. Q says, will POTUS be at Camp David tomorrow? Yes, he will. 1 year Delta. Matters of national security. The clock is ticking. Follow the truth, or follow the watch. Q. Follow the truth too, but you got to follow the watch here. So where is this watch going to pop up next? I'm very curious. Is it going to pop up? Somebody going to be wearing it, and that's going to be a signal, like who we can look to? Will somebody at Camp David be there with the watch on? And yes, there is a 1 year Delta. So let me explain this. First of all, obviously, this is the story right here, which talks about President Trump, and this is going now, right? This is a news story that just came out where President Trump's heading to Camp David for this weekend to regroup, and it's going to discuss matters of national security and all this, whatever. That's what it is, right? Now, look at this story, obviously, from last year at the same day, same time, President Trump President Trump goes to Camp David. And this is where we had that, there was a big announcement. If you remember, it was about North Korea, and everybody went there, and they had a big meeting. So this is coming up. That's what Q's pointing us to. He wants us to watch the watch. So we'll have to watch out for the watch tomorrow. If there's anything else you guys can pick up out of here, let me know. A lot of people talk about the Q clock. That's very complicated, but we'll cover that at some point in the future. But follow the watch. We're going to see what all that means. Yes, President Trump will be at Camp David. Yes, this is a 1 year anniversary to the day. So coincidence? I'll leave that to you. And the next one here is talking about this older Q post from December last month, where it was talking about how border security equals national security. And it talks about how there was enough money in the defense spending bill to actually reappropriate some of that to pay for the wall. And that they were basically, it talks about budget reconciliation and the possibility of getting a bill through urgently that could end up creating the money necessary to build the wall. And of course, it goes on to say, what if the House fails prior to majority change? What vested authority does the Constitution grant a sitting president regarding matters of national security? Thank you, Mr. Soros. And it gives these tweets where basically President Trump threatened to just have the military build the wall if they won't give him the funding, which is exactly where we are. Now, first thing Q does is point us to this tweet from Maggie Haberman, of course. And Maggie Haberman, as you guys remember, is the reporter who the Clinton Foundation loves because she'll tee up stories for them. So, of course, another future proves past thing where this is Maggie talking about this Robert Costa, who says a Trump confidant tells him that he's still talking today about declaring a national emergency if talks collapse, and he's getting encouraged by several of his friends on hard right to do just that, knowing it'd be it'd be challenged immediately. So then Maggie Haberman responds to that. More on what Costa reports is hearing. Trump has been talking about it for several days, and White House counsel's office has taken a look at what is possible since the shutdown began, and Trump revived talk of this inside White House. So exactly what we just looked at, what Q was alluding to, President Trump's mulling over and considering, where you declare a state of emergency and you use your constitutional authority through Posse Comitatus and its revisions to go and build the wall using the military. It's genius, right? I think it's genius, but that's just me. I'm one person. It says several days. What if this was always the plan? Justice Kavanaugh, timing is everything. Why deploy vested powers of the office of the president under verifiable matters of national security when you can instead unveil America's true enemy? Public awakening. And it gives this WikiLeaks email, which has from Podesta emails, which of course is talking about the Maggie Haberman thing, where it says, this is what literally they say about Maggie Haberman in the email here. This is the Podesta emails. It says, we has a very good relationship with Maggie Haberman of Politico over the last year. We have had her tee up stories for us before and have never been disappointed. While we should have a larger conversation in the near future about a broader strategy for re-engaging the beat press that covers HRC, for this, we think we can achieve our objective and do the most shaping by going to Maggie. Well, Maggie, that's a great reporting, a great objective reporter there, where you tee up stories for the Clinton Foundation and then work with them to shape a story to their liking. That's a very objective. I like that. But then it says, it quotes exactly what we just read there. And it says, you are not safe, Q. So I don't know what that's referring to, except that people who are going to create fake news, spread fake stories or whatever, they're going to get exposed, right? That's what it seems to be. At least they'll be shown for what they are. And then you can make your decision up after that. I mean, it's not very complicated. So, of course, the next one is this post, which was from December 11th from Q, which talked about, Pelosi and how you won't win and all this stuff. Here. Let's pull this up. And it talks about, you will not win from Pelosi. This is a quote. It says, you didn't think the largest military spending bill in history, fiscal year 2019, wasn't going to indirectly include funding for the wall, did you? Learn the Constitution, read vested powers of POTUS regarding matters of national security. This is the Posse Comitatus thing. It says, this was planned and forecasted as the border funding solution from the beginning. Right? And it says, Anons had the proof long ago, but shining a light back then would have defeated the primary purpose of showing the public the real objective of Democratic's party of open borders, eliminate ICE, eliminate security, defend illegals over Americans midterm election. These people are stupid. And of course, I agree. Anyway, it says, Q says, how do you outmaneuver the obstructionists? How do you expose the obstructionists for what they really are? And it says, enemy of the people. They are only now figuring it out. So obviously they're not too quick, because we knew this a while ago. If you look at this post here, we were told back in March of 23rd, 2018. It said basically Red Castle, Green Castle. They were clock activated. The Red Castle is the logo for the Army Corps of Engineers, which is located, of course, in Green Castle, Indiana. So bada boom, bada bing. There you go. Right? And they're just figuring it out now, although we knew this a long time ago. So go figure. The next one here is kind of interesting. It's talking, first of all, this Anon puts up this tweet from this person, a combat debater. And it says, the first 24 hours of Democrats in power filed articles of impeachment or articles to impeach Trump, introduced a bill to kill the Electoral College, and passed a bill to fund government without the border wall. Voted unanimously to go home just 4 hours after taking the job. Who's worried for our country? He puts his hand up. And I shouldn't be laughing, because I have my hand up too. I'm very worried for our country if that's literally what happened in the first 24 hours of Democrats taking power. I can only imagine what the next 2 years are going to be like. So they filed articles to impeach Trump. They filed a bill to kill the Electoral College. They passed a bill to fund the government without the border wall, and voted unanimously to go home. That sounds like a Democrat. I'm sorry, I don't know why that makes me laugh so hard. I think this part's what makes me laugh. They just voted unanimously to go home after 4 hours. We deserve a break. We've been working really hard. It's been 4 hours, guys. All right, I motion that we go home for a couple weeks. Yeah, hey, it's hilarious, right? So then, of course, it has this Breitbart article which talks about Democrat spending bill offers $12 billion more for foreign aid and $0 for the border wall. To which Q, I think, takes exception here in saying basically, Q says, why do Democrats always force Republicans to include spending bills for approval, billions of dollars for foreign aid? Who audits where the money actually goes? How do politicians become extremely wealthy while in office on government salaries? How do XYZ organizations, etc., remain funded? And it gives these links to the foreignassistance.gov. And here it is. So basically this talks about the amount of money requested for foreign assistance. And this is a huge number. This is $28 billion. Now, what Q is alluding to, I think, in this post is pretty simple. It's talking about basically right here, what Q's talking about is the way that there's slush funds and all that stuff. But we're going to read the rest of this first, and then we'll break it down. I'm going to get ahead of myself. Why do Democrats only care about control, power? Power of the purse, power equals protection, the wheel of corruption, welcome to the con, Q. So this is all it, right? How do they become extremely wealthy? I mean, these people are making $100,000 a year, and they're leaving office millionaires. And this is insanity to me. I don't understand how nobody's been looking into that more closely. But then it's asking you to connect the dots here, I think. Understand, like, what Q told us before. Q's pointed to the fact that there's slush funds in Singapore and slush funds in other countries. You don't think that some of that foreign aid money that the Democrats in power who are trying to lobby to get put out into other countries, you don't think that there's a possibility that there was a slice taken off that, a little slice that's put on the side for them for when they get out of office for giving a country billions and billions of dollars? That's what's being suggested here by Q. That's the question that's being asked. That's what you have to ask yourself. Is it possible? And if it is possible, then should we be investigating this? Is it possible that this is actually happening? So that's where I'll kind of put that to you guys. And it says, who audits where the money actually goes? Well, it's basically, it's not audited, at least not effectively audited. There's really no way to track it. If you're able to just in the middle of the night send a pallet with $1.5 billion to to Iran in the middle of the night on 3 different planes to 3 different airports and 3 different places, that to me is what is really, really scary. And it says, how do these politicians become extremely wealthy? That's an incredibly good question. Nobody ever looks at that, like Dianne Feinstein and her husband's work in China. Nobody's like connecting these dots, right? When you can look at it and say, okay, there's enough there to say this deserves to be investigated at least, at minimum. I'm not making accusations, I'm saying investigate. That's all, right? But we don't want to do that. Apparently now with the House of Representatives Democrat controlled, I don't think we're going to be doing many investigations like that. And it also says, how did the ABC organizations, CIA, whoever, how do it remain funded, right? Because that's where the money comes from, right? It goes into foreign assistance, which then gets funneled into different places, and then it can go into the pockets of individuals who are basically in the positions of power to get the money put where it needs to be for the benefit of whoever, right? So it's saying, why do Democrats only care about control power? That's a rhetorical question, I think. But it's saying power of the purse is what they really are after, and that power equals protection for them. It talks about how it's just one big wheel of corruption, and that is the con, or confidence game, or con job, or whatever you want to call it. That is the ploy. Now, the next one here, which is the last one, of course, takes us back to this foreign assistance page with the numbers, talking about the $28 billion that was requested, and then it says, why for decades has the UN encouraged donor countries to contribute 0.7% of their gross domestic product on foreign aid? The corruption infiltration at the top worldwide has spread like cancer. And then it gives this YouTube video, which you guys all know, seen it a bunch of times. It's this the video that will get President Trump elected. I'm going to leave it in the link. You guys should go watch it because that's what Q leaves us with. It says, listen again carefully, and the Great Awakening Q. So, question, why do they encourage them to donate so little of their GDP, or donate 0.7% of their GDP to the foreign aid? Well, obviously because it's just a big racket for money that's unaccounted for, that you could skim little pieces and slices off here and there, and basically you can direct that money wherever you want, and then it can be used to effectively corrupt politicians and do all types of other stuff. So I'm going to leave that there for you guys to check out. If you guys want, let me know what you think down in the comments about all this stuff. I'm always interested to hear your theories, especially on all the stuff we covered here today, which was a lot. So I'm going to wrap it up real quick. First of all, if you want to help the channel, come here, watch, or click the big red subscribe button. That helps the channel out big time. I can't tell you how much it helps me out. Watch these videos, share them on your social media. Also, make sure to leave your thoughts, theories, and insights down in the comments because I want to hear what you have to think about all of this. And another thing that you guys can do to help out the channel is pretty simple. You can come over here to Patreon. And like I talked about in the last episode, Patreon's how I support, how you guys help support this channel. It's a crowdfunding website where you can go and you can become a patron, which means that you will fund my channel monthly. It's a monthly donation. Give as little as $1 or as much as you like, but every little bit helps. Your contributions help keep this channel alive, especially in the face of YouTube demonetization, which is very real. So I appreciate all of your help. And also I have a GoFundMe page set up. If you guys want to make a one-time donation, you're not interested in the monthly donation, I totally understand. You can come over here to this website. Links to both these websites will be in the description for you guys to go check. Don't forget to check out my Twitter page and follow me over here on Twitter at Justin_Formed, or just search Justin Formed Talking. You can find me here. Click the follow button. You get all my funny, hilarious tweets, and all the videos get posted here, and a lot of other stuff too. So you guys can go check that out. And before we go, I want to take a second and talk about the most important part of every episode, which is God's grace and how it is greater. It is our segment here at the end where we study a little bit of scripture, and we talk about, because we deal with such negative things, I think I always put God into the mix. And I always try to leave you guys with a positive message. And I'm like a kid at Christmas. I like to save the best for last. So I always save this for the last part of the episode. So today we have a very short but very insightful piece of scripture. It's out of 1 Corinthians, and it's chapter 16, verses 13 and 14. And I'm going to read them real quick, and we're just going to talk about them for a second, and hopefully they help. It says, "Be alert, stand firm in the faith, be brave and strong. Your every action must be done with love." And that's it. Simple, directive. It's a simple idea to be a person who is alert, to stand firm in your faith every day, to be brave and strong. Simple, not easy though. Don't ever confuse simple and easy, because they're not the same. Just because something's simple doesn't mean it's easy. But these words, I think, show us that sometimes the simplest things are the most important things. And it wants us to remember to make every action from a place of love. That to me is the overwhelming message I want to share with you guys, because it's difficult to be alert and stand firm in your faith in the world that we live in today, especially with all of the negative influences, all of the satanic and evil stuff that's out there, that a lot of it's hidden in plain sight. It's hard to stand firm in your faith, but you have to be strong and brave. And you can get that from God. That's why my prayer every night is always, Lord, please make me the man that you deserve. Give me the strength and courage and wisdom to be the man that you deserve, to make me your most humble servant so I can go out into the world and change the world according to your will. And if you guys do the same, God can come into your heart, and he can provide all of the blessings and give you so many gifts and fortunes, and even your misfortunes are going to ultimately be lessons, opportunities to learn, and opportunities to grow, and opportunities to become stronger in your faith, because there's nothing guaranteed, and God is the only thing that's guaranteed. So that's pretty much going to wrap this up, and I want to say thank you all for watching. Remember that your every action must be done with love, while standing firm in your faith and being brave and strong. But thanks for watching. Remember, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, come here, click the big red subscribe button. That's going to be it for me. I want to say thanks for watching Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed, and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.